Let me share my screen, my 1-minute intro. Okay, that's the link. Hi there, welcome everyone to the Data Science London meetup. So that's a meetup for data scientists, data enthusiasts, and anyone who might want to work with people who work with data, whether it's executives, managers, product managers, whatever. We have a meetup group, which you can find on that URL, which I'm going to share in the chat as well. And we hope that in the near future, we can also hold events in a hybrid format, in person and also online. Who I am, you can call me Stelios. I'm a data scientist, as you may have guessed. I've spent more than 10 years of my career in this field, involved in various things, including being a data science advisor for London Business School, and also doing some work in the blockchain space, primarily in the area of tokenomics. I'm a research fellow at UCL's Blockchain Center, and I've also written a book called The Decision Maker's Handbook to Data Science. I'm going to be sending you my email in case you want to get a copy of the book. And finally, the Tesseract Academy is a sponsor for this event. I'm the CEO of the Tesseract Academy, and we have a network of partners who specialize in helping decision makers better understand topics like data science, AI, and blockchain. So this is the schedule for today. We're starting with Ahmed. He's going to talk about big data in the domain of NLG, natural language generation. Then Dr. Roushanak is going to talk about AI and applications in medicine. And finally, Alex is going to talk about Jina AI. So each talk will be 10 to 15 minutes plus Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat. We like it when it's more interactive, so also feel free to write in the chat where you're calling from, what's your role, your job title, what brings you to this event. And if we get enough interesting questions, by the end, sometimes we'll have a bit of a more open panel discussion between the presenters and the participants. So that was it for me, and now I'm going to go on mute. And yeah, Ahmed, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Stelios. My name is Ahmed Dawod. I'm a machine learning research engineer. I work in a company called Market News. We work in the SEO domain. Managing and creating content for our clients. So energy and data are big parts of what we do on a daily basis. I've been in the machine learning field for 10 years overall, in software development for like more than 20 years. Yeah, that's just about me. I'm here today to talk about big data in NLG because big data is like when people say big data, what you think of instantly is not NLG type of data, not text data. What comes to mind is usually numerical data, like in financial domain or medical domain, perhaps like any other domain that uses a lot of numerical data. Sometimes images, like in the computer vision domain. And of course, the big field in that is the medical industry. But text data doesn't come to mind when you talk about big data. And there are like a few reasons. I personally believe that there are a few reasons for that. And the biggest reason is the type of data. So when we talk about data, there are two major types of data. There is structured data and unstructured data. Structured data, we all know it, it's well organized, it's easily queryable, it's easily quantifiable. Like dealing with the data is pretty much standardized. You're given a data set, you know right away what to do with it. You know how your pipeline looks like. to deal with this data before presenting it to your models to do whatever you want to do with that data. But when it comes to unstructured data, especially text data, so far, and like we're in 2022, we have no standard efficient way to deal with unstructured text data. And by nature, and especially in the NLG domain, not just like NLP or NLU, especially in NLG, all data or all problems or all services, all models deal with big data by nature, because you're training models to understand and generate human language, and that requires a lot of training data. So you deal naturally with big data. But there is a problem because of what I just said. There is no standard way of doing that, and no standard way of storing this data, no standard way of processing the data, evaluating the data, representing the data before you give it to your model. So before I go into that, I just wanted to give like a quick run of why it became important now, because all the way until 2018, NLG was stuck. It was frozen. The best thing we had were recurrent neural networks and LSTMs, long short-term memory, and they had their limits, and we hit a wall, and that was it. There was no more progress in that area. We were able to generate short paragraphs, short sequences of text that were meh, but that was it. There was nothing else to do. Then 2017, it was the birth of what is called the transformer model, which created a revolution that we are still seeing its effects today and hopefully into the future. Transformer model, basically, without going into much technical details, solved all the problems that RNNs and LSTMs had when it comes to long dependencies on previous text, when it comes to attention to certain words in order to generate new words, all of these things. And it basically achieved that through what is called self-attention mechanism and possession embeddings. So that happened in 2017, and then 2018, Google created BERT, which is up until that point, we were dealing, when we wanted to get features out of text data, unstructured data, we created what we call vector embeddings. And the most popular method of doing that all the way until 2018 was called word-to-vec, which was an algorithm model to learn to convert text data, to convert words into meaningful numerical representations into vectors. But that had its limits as well, because the way word-to-vec was trained, it was unidirectional. It was how a word is represented given the words that came before it. Now, Google came and created BERT, which is a bidirectional model. So it takes into account the context, the entire context, before or after the word. Then that created a revolution of its own. Like the BERT revolution is still going on until today. People are still creating variants of BERT. People are still innovating great stuff based off BERT. And actually, like the Google search engine currently work using BERT. Like when you search for something, the similarity, the rankings, all of these things are now based on BERT. Then 2019, the biggest spark in the energy domain happened when OpenAI created GPT-2 model, which is a language model based off the transformer model. And that was a big thing. The media everywhere was talking about this, like people were going crazy about this, and then it began going on. Then like GPT-2, then GPT-3, and then something happened that I personally, along with other people in academia and industry, believe it's the wrong direction of dealing with problems in energy. Companies started a race, an energy race. They started competing over who would produce or train the largest language model. So it started with GPT-2. It was a neural network that had like about 1.5 billion parameters. Then GPT-3, it was like a huge difference, 175 billion parameters. Then the race continued. There is Microsoft's Megatron Turing. It's using a revolutionary technique that's called deep speed that came up. I guess it was beginning of 2020. Megatron Turing is 530 billion parameters. Then recently, a Chinese model, a Chinese company or institute created a model called Wu Dao, if I'm pronouncing it right, Wu Dao version 2, which has 1 trillion parameters. It's a neural network with 1 trillion parameters. And it's this race to create the largest model with the intuition that the larger the model is, the better the content it generates, which is the wrong direction. Because if you, what they display is cherry picking. They display the best, most accurate piece that was generated, and it probably took them hundreds, maybe thousands of trash generations until they got to this one that they display to the media. But when you try them yourself, you can see that there is not really much of a difference between them. The output is basically, when you, a GPT-2 output, which is like a neural network with 1.5 billion parameters, compared to a GPT-3 output with 175 billion parameters, it's the same. And I'm saying this from experience. I tried. Of course, the pieces they present to the media are greatly different, but it's cherry picked. It's not what you will always get when you run those models. So it's just showing off muscle. These companies have the money and have the resources to train those enormous models, but the correct approach to improve things comes from data, comes from dealing with data. So, working with this on a daily basis, I could see it, like I could feel the change that happens in the output of the model when I just clean something from the training data, or like add a new filter to the training data that removes like some of the trash data that or the noisy data that came got leaked into the training data. Just one small cleaning, one small filter, one small change in the data gets you like a huge difference when it comes to the output. So that the people who actually care about advancing energy, they work in this area. They work in what, like sampling techniques, what samples from the data to pick to feed the model. They work on data representation. They work on data cleaning, data filters, data evaluation. These are the things. And that's why talking about big data in the energy domain, I think it's not done enough. and it should be done more. And that's why I'm actually excited to see Alex's presentation about Jina, because that's something important to have. So yeah, I mean, the problems we have are like when you talk about data, you start with data pipelines. There is no standard data pipeline when it comes to NLG, because every data is different, and not even the data set itself, what you want to do with the data. So for example, we at Market Muse, we wanted to create a model that writes professional articles from scratch with minimal human intervention. And of course, we have like the most famous data set, Common Crawl, which has the entire web. GPT models were trained over social posts data. It was trained over Reddit posts, which is not what we wanted. So we had this huge data set. Well, we can't use it because that's not our goal. That's not our point here. So we had to do the pipeline ourselves. We had to do the cleaning ourselves to make sure that we feed the model professional articles to get the output a professional article. So data pipelines, we don't have standard data pipelines in NLG. We have automation problems because when you talk about data cleaning, there is no standard data cleaning for NLG data. And you're talking about huge scale. You're not talking about like 100 text pieces. You're not talking about 1,000. We're talking about millions and millions and millions of data points. We're talking about terabytes of storage of data that you have to go through and you have to clean. You have to clean out racial text. You have to clean out discriminative text in general. You have to clean out sexual content. You have to clean anything that you don't want the model to learn because you don't want it to be presented from the model. So again, we don't have a standard big data cleaning pipeline or methods in NLG. Also collecting the data, this is important because it matters what you collect and where you collect it from and how you store it to reduce the cost of retrieving those documents later. So collecting the data, this is actually like, it's a phenomenon that I haven't seen that much in other domains when it comes to machine learning and data science. You can see in NLP, NLG domain, academic papers published with the sole contribution of providing a data set, providing a clean, ready-to-use data set, not a model, not a new revolutionary way of evaluating, just a data set. That's the contribution, and it's an important contribution. So this happens very often in NLG. And it's also a continuous effort because text data is infinitely changing. Like, for example, if you're working in computer vision domain and you want to create a model that classify cancer scans, cancer X-ray scans, cancer scans are not like the tumor shapes are not going to change unless like there is a new kind of cancer tumors that is very different from any other tumor that came up, but that doesn't happen very often. So you can use, basically you can use a data set of cancer images that was created like 5 years ago, and you can still use it to train a model to classify cancer patients. Or like maybe with some like very minor modifications. When it comes to financial domain, you can use financial data sets because the financial rules and financial tasks are the same things. You can use a financial data set from like a few years ago and build a model and train a model on it now. But when it comes to energy, when it comes to text data, for example, if you train a model on the entire web content 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and you want that model to write something about COVID-19, it will have almost no information, nothing to start. You have to collect new data on COVID-19 and fine-tune the, you don't have to train it from scratch, but you need to fine-tune the model to inject this new information on the like with the existing information that it learned from previous data. And that's why like we have to do this continuous learning, continuous fine-tuning, continuous collection of data, continuous cleaning of data. It's just not unstructured. Everyone that writes content on the web writes it in their own like format, in their own style, in their own everything. So it's very important to include this, because when we see big data courses, big data tutorials, they're all about numerical data. Some of them are about image and video data for computer vision, but it's rarely seen. I mean, if you go on Google right now and search big data plus NLG, you will find nothing. Nothing. You will find articles and tutorials talking about that energy is using big data, but that's it. No pipelines, no cleaning methods, no automatic evaluations, because we tried automatic evaluations for energy data and it doesn't work, or it doesn't work all the time, or it doesn't work the way you want it to work. Let me phrase it this way. So yeah, that's what I wanted to present here, and I'm open for questions. I don't know if we're doing questions now or at the end, but
yeah, we can do them now. Thanks for that. I think this was very informative also for people looking to get into the space of NLP. Any questions? Feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourselves and just speak.
No questions, but I will be touching on some of your points in my talk. This is
yeah, and I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what you say. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect, guys. Okay, so Roushanak, would you like to go next?
Microphone.
Yeah, we're gonna hear you.
Yeah.
You're not on mute, but it looks like your audio is dead. I think it must be your headset. Sometimes people get this with Zoom. No.
Seems it is working.
Yeah, no, it is.
Okay, perfect. So let me share my screen. Awesome. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So let me go full time. Okay, so hi everyone. I hope you can hear me well and can see my screen. And I asked you already. So welcome to my talk. I'm going to talk about an important topic in general with the title of Will AI Take Over Medicine? A bit of warning that it's not possible to cover all the related topics in 10 minutes. So I highly recommend, if you have any question, put it in the chat and I would answer at the end of the presentation. Okay, so let me tell you a bit about myself. So my name is Roushanak Rahmat. I'm an AI research scientist, and I'm specialized in computer vision and image processing, working at a medical tech company. I also put few specializations of mine at the bottom, you can see. And the reason I put it that in case if you have any question about any of these topics, I'm more than happy to help. And if you want to see about my previous research and my work, please go to my website. Okay, so let's start. Why is cancer not cured yet? I'm going to make an introduction about how AI is revolutionizing cancer treatment, or let's say in general medicine. And we should know that cancer is not cured completely. There are lots of reasons for that. But some of the reasons that we're going to talk about in this talk is the way that AI can help with the current situation and advancement of the knowledge that we human have. And we're going to see if would artificial intelligence help human to get a better knowledge about cancer. My answer is yes. So I'll tell you why I think we can do that. So let's look at this picture. Different human from like we all human, we are different from each other, from our age, our gender, our skin color, our race, and many other factors. We always hear also that some people in some part of the world, some people from a specific race, they suffer more or less from a specific type of disease. And this means that the demographics of human, the things that just now I said, our race, our gender, the place that we work, all these factors are affecting our health. And so maybe people even from the same race, if they are from different gender, they would have different, when they get the same disease, it's not affecting them in the same way. But when it comes to medicine in general, we look at the human population rather than each individual to treat the patients. If let's say two people, they get cancer, they are the same solution usually for both of them. But as I said, we can see like this demographics and all the knowledge that we have about the demographics of ourselves, we know like it is affecting the situation and how we get this disease. Okay, so let's look at this figure. What can we see from this? It is showing, although people are different in the matter of the demographics that I said, which are the age, color, race, background, environments that is affecting them. They're all going to go through the same treatment as the medics classify. They have a specific disease. The truth is that they get different responses from the same treatment. I mean, due to our differences, we can expect that the treatment has different outcome of different individuals. But how if we are able to study each individual better and with respect to their differences, we provide a specialized treatment for them? And instead of seeing no effect or even adverse cases, we maximize treatment for everyone. So we are talking about somehow personalizing medicine with what just now I said. And what is personalized medicine? Personalized medicine, which is also referred as precision medicine, is a medical model that separates people into different groups with medical decisions, practices, interventions, and products being tailored to the individual patient based on their predicted response or risk of disease. So sometimes also this precision medicine or personalized medicine is called P4 medicine as well, or stratified medicine. Okay. So personalized medicine can be used in different healthcare services, such as prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. In prevention, we are targeting early detection of disease in patients at risk and improving preventive measures. Okay? In diagnosis, an accurate disease diagnosis is modeled for enabling individualized treatment strategy. And in treatment, personalized medicine is improving the outcomes of treatment through targeted treatments and reduced side effects. Now, let's see what are the benefits of personalized medicine. So, personalized medicine would reduce trial and error based treatment decisions. It would bring down the burdens associated with the condition, both in terms of health and finance. Patient-centric medication is done through the integration of multimodal data from an individual, and more emphasis would be laid on preventive mode rather than the reactive mode in medicine. Reduction in time and cost associated with clinical trials conducted by pharmaceutical, pharmaceuticals. Awesome. Now let's see how can AI help us in this problem that just now explained. AI has been explored and advanced in many fields. In medicine, there have been many different improvements using AI, but what we hope that AI being used to help physicians identify and choose the right drugs, treatments for the right patients. With AI, we can make many medical related problems personalized. AI and big data can combine different information to improve treatment. For example, for a medical doctor during radiotherapy, they only look at a specific sources of data such as image scans. So as we can observe in this figure, the amount of information we can obtain for an individual health comes from many different sources. And regardless of gathering the data, understanding them and putting them together is a very challenging task. Okay. Now, let's think how if we merge all the available information that we can obtain from an individual. For example, patients' genome data, their demographics, their medical history, imaging scans, their lab tests like blood tests. Then we are able to go towards personalizing medicine. Okay, having all of this gives us lots of information. The more information we gather from a person, then we can understand the body of that person better, and we can move toward the personalizing medicine for that person better. So merging data is difficult for us as a human, but AI can change the future of medical treatment as it has the ability to find the patterns we are looking for from different data sources. So let's look at the AI benefits and challenges. So for the benefits, I say that there is, or the role of, let's say, AI, machine learning in general in this field is that there is a scope of applying the algorithms of machine learning to the genomic data sets, which would enable the delivery of personalized medicine. So genomic information, genomic data set has been explored a lot in personalized medicine. That's why we have lots of machine learning models already developed for this. But if we have more data, the use of multimodal data would help us in deeper analysis of large data sets, which improves the understanding of human health and disease by leaps and bounds. As machine learning is capable of identifying hidden patterns of data, many future diseases can be prevented. And AI would reduce the burden on the healthcare system on screening of various diseases like lung cancer, COVID, heart disease, and so on. And what are the challenges if we want to do this? Optimization of the application is required, and that's difficult to do. And the knowledge base of the stakeholders, which would involve physicians, laboratory technicians, data analysts, programmers, and paramedical staff, has to be increased. Everyone needs to have a basic understanding of the concerned domains, and that's difficult. But putting that together would really make a big change. So now let's look at the tools that usually we have in personalized medicine. So there are different ways to tackle this problem. using machine learning, lots of simple models that we do, like classification, regression, clustering, even reinforcement learning. Uh, uh, okay, so in this slide, I'm showing you some of the Python libraries that people worked on them for this specific problem, like scikit-learn, PyGeno. I'm sure you guys know about it, but just for to remind you, scikit-learn is one of the most important tools in machine learning, and it has various estimators and predictors that are imported to model a particular data set. PyGeno is a Python package that pertains to precision medicine applications mainly, with a special focus on genomics. So it is easy to use and has highly efficient memory and has a fast framework that allows users to easily explore subject-specific genomes. An even more specific package was developed by Google called Deep Variant, and which is an analysis pipeline that uses a deep neural networks to call genetics variants from next generation DNA sequencing data. So I was talking about combining all this data, and there are some tools, but they are mostly using genome or some specific kind of data. So I hope I was clear when I was talking about combining data in general from different data sources available for a human. But if not, let's look at a simple example to that I show you what I really want as combining all this data and how why that's important. So this is a very let's just start with this simple example, not related to medical data, but let's say one of you knows me. And if you see my picture, you can recognize that it's me and you say, this is Roushanak. If I call you with an unknown like number, you can still recognize me from my voice, even if you don't see me, right? Now, let's see, having both of these source of information together, if you see me, I mean, what I mean, a voice and face would give you a more confidence in recognizing me if you see me while I'm talking and you can see my face. But how if one of these factors is noisy? For example, while I caught a cold, my voice is different. Or let's say, for example, I'm having, I don't know, covering my face with mask. You still, as a human, can recognize it's me. So one feature can compensate the other feature in case of having some, as I said, noise, let's say. But so human brain can easily merge and combine different types of data, while in AI it is still a challenging problem due to the differences of data sources and the structures of the data, yeah, it really causes big problem and it's not easy to merge them in the same network. I hope I'm clear and you got the idea. A deep learning model that can apply at the same time merging this data, this concept that just now, as I said, our brain is doing that, is something that would be very beneficial in the problem that I said, personalized medicine, because we need to understand all of this data that we have from an individual patient at the same time to study what's happening. And all this data are from different dimension, from different shape, and it's very difficult. I have done a very nice research when I was working on early detection of lung cancer by combining image data with the patient demographic data in the same network. And it's a very challenging work to do because, as I said, the dimension and of this data is difficult. So merging them is difficult. I cannot show you because we still haven't published those papers, but I show you one thing that I saw one of the papers that it maybe shows you the concept that in healthcare we can apply from a paper I found in the internet. So it's this one. This is a very simple model that they are showing that when we apply ensemble models that combine classifications from radiology and histopathology image analysis pipelines. Of course, getting into that classifier and then ensemble them can be difficult, but there are many different ways to deal with these different types of data. And I really hope that one day we can even have, there are lots of research currently going on, but they are using, I think, maximum 2 or 3 types of data. But the time that we would have lots of this data, we can really improve this personalization of medicine, and AI would have a big impact. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know if you have any question.
Thank you very much. Any questions? By the way, I was digging some links while you were talking. I was kind of like lost some part of the presentation. I was reading the deep variant. I found it very interesting. Didn't know about this one.
Yeah, I have I have a question. I don't know if like you have the answer to that, or but it's concerning the problem of I mean, we call it ethical machine learning, but it's more than that. Like, it's part of it is non-discriminative machine learning. So I guess like those personalized models are usually trained on historical data to get an idea of how like different peoples are diagnosed and those kinds of things. And in medicine, like any other domain, there have been like discriminative problems in the past. Like this problem only happens to females, or like this happens only to Black people, you know, those kinds of things. So is there any active concern or research or work that is also not just trying to combine different data and like get historical data from hospitals or doctors or different institutes, but also try to clean those data sets to get rid of that problem? Again, you're, I don't know, we can't hear.
We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now better?
Yeah.
Okay. If I understood your question, so you're saying like these kinds of systems don't work for when they, let's say, they are trained with some specific type of data more, and then if they see, I don't know, let's say if it's like the data set, it's trained, let's say in Europe, then with people who are with, let's say with, they are more white collar, and then let's say if we apply that in, I don't know, in a hospital in, let's say, Africa, it wouldn't work because it kinds of somehow find them as like outliers. Is that?
And not just that, but also in the past, not very far past, but in the past, medical decisions and also other decisions were made with that. Like, for example, hiring decisions, not very long ago, hiring decisions were based on sex. Like if you're a female, you were going to have like difficulty finding a job compared to a male applicant. So, and that was not like very long ago. And in medicine, I don't have like specific examples, but in medicine, for some time, there were like some diseases that even doctors thought that they happen only to females, or like a certain race, or only to children, or only to senior citizens, you know, things like that. So it's not just like the demographics of the area you collect the data from, but also like if you include medical decisions in your training data, medical decisions also include that kind of noise.
I think I understand, but when we deal with population-based data, we would have that. But when we try to come with personalized one, there would be more tricks that what are the main important things, and then each one of these, factors would be, I think, studied separately. And even if we have that problem, I think then that would be another problem of dealing with, which is we have lots of solutions for that, how to deal with unbalanced kind of data, because we would be biased, network would be biased, or any model would be biased when we don't see a specific thing. But when it comes to the tricks that people use in personalized one, you look at one example, and then that's how it would learn from that specific example. My background, as I said, it was the project that I said I couldn't show because we were not published. That one we really had very unbalanced data, and that one was something that still we were trying to personalize it. We were looking at the population. But I think there's more to this. I wish I could go more into the deep learning part, but I think the problem itself was a bit difficult for people from not this field to talk about it. Maybe I would have a follow-up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Perfect. I think there's a question. Are there any systems focused on inclusion data sets?
What is the proposition? Which one did you read? Okay, so what is the precision medicine is the way. How will you be sharing the recording? Okay. And the system focuses on inclusion data sets. I don't know. Oh, sorry, what?
I was just saying the message is like right at the bottom of the chat.
Yeah, in the chat.
Are there any systems focused on inclusion data sets? I don't know about this. I don't know.
Okay, no problem. Then I think we can move on to our final presentation. We're running a bit over time, but I guess what's positive is that we still have 70 participants in total. So Alex, the stage is yours.
Thank you. And yeah, thank you to Ahmed and Roushanak. You've just given me a lot more work because I've been rewriting my deck while you were both speaking to address some of your points. So yay, thanks everyone. Cool, I'll share my screen and we'll get the show on the road. Okay. So this was originally a whole different deck. So if it's a bit disorganized, that's why. So yeah, we're going to cover basically what is neural search. TLDR, it's search for any kind of data powered by AI. You can go home now. Okay, normally we have the content warning because I go into, graphs and embeddings and all that, but I figure most of you already know that, so we'll breeze through it. I'm Alex CG, Developer Relations Lead for Jina AI. So developer relations, it boils down to basically the developers are the engineers who build the product and make it wonderful. And developer relations, we make it glamorous so people actually want to use it in the community. So they do all the hard work with a pretty face. I'm really into open source. I'm a Vim junkie. I live on the terminal. I hate using mouse. Normally based in Berlin. You can follow me on Twitter or GitHub. So yeah. So no, this isn't what we're going to do. Never mind. Jina AI is a startup in Berlin, founded by the same guy who did BERT as a service and Fashion Feminist, Dr. Hans Xiao. We're building cool stuff with Python and machine learning. Loads of what we do is open source. That's why I joined in the first place. If you want the boring business level stuff, that's at Jina.ai. The repo is at get.jina.ai. And that's the cool stuff where you can see the code. And if we get time, I'll be sharing some example code in a notebook. So we make everything you need to build an AI-powered search engine. So Dockerarray is a primitive data type for Python that can store any kind of unstructured data. It has fields for like URI for embeddings. So when you pass it through a model, it'll store it in a consistent place. Fine-tuner goes the last mile. Jina lets you take what you built with Dockeray. So Dockeray you build locally. It's very quick to bootstrap your own search engine. I did one for there's a new data set out there, anime girls holding programming books. I built an image-to-image search engine for that in like 20 minutes using Dockeray. If I wanted to put that on the cloud, scale it up, run it on Kubernetes, I'd use Jina for that. And the whole reason I can do it so quickly is I don't have to do much coding myself. I'm no ML expert. I just use predefined building blocks from Jina Hub. I'll go into those a bit more later. So what's neural search? So the bigger question is, first of all, what's search? So you may think of it as, boring old text box on Twitter or LinkedIn or Bing or Yahoo, or I think there's this other search engine that's catching on, but I forget the name. But yeah, really search is about a lot of things. In many cases, it's about similarity search, which is what we're going to be covering today. So let's say I have a PDF on, I don't know, building adaptive neural networks or neural network architecture. And I want to find similar things in my huge library of PDFs. That's why Jina shines. You give it thing A, it'll find things B, C, D, E, and F, all the way up to Z that are similar, assuming it's in your data set and your model is good. Or things like you could build your own Shazam. Upload a Beyonce song, find similar songs by Beyonce, Destiny's Child, stuff in the same style. Or videos, you get the idea, yada, yada, yada. Build the next Amazon. Let the user upload a picture of their favorite sneakers, find similar sneakers in your database. So neural search is just search plus neural networks. So yeah, we use the embeddings from deep learning models to find similar things. So yeah, I'll go into that more. Hang on, we'll skip the ugly and cute animals. I'll share a link to the deck later if you really want to gross yourself out with some weird animals. So yeah, it's all about feature detection. So if you take a model like ResNet 50, that's great for classification, but it'll only tell you if things a dog or a cat or a helicopter. So what we can do with that is cut away the final layer that does the classification. And then we can work on the feature level. And in that way, upload a picture of a puppy and find similar puppies, instead of it just saying puppy. So it's the features that make up the thing rather than the label. So four-legged furry animal, blah, blah, blah. We've got a demo I can show you, which is our multimodal fashion search. So right now, this is running on my local machine. It's using Dockeray and Jina Hub. The repo is open source. We'll share that in the links. And it lets you do fashion search in a multimodal cross-modal way. So I could type in blue dress, that's good for a party. And yeah, we can find good blue party dresses. The way it works is behind the scenes, we're using a model called Clip. So Clip is really good for encoding images. So you can do image-to-image search quite easily. And let me see if I have any, hang on. Oh, Zoom, why do you be like you be? Let's see if I have any fashion images. So we can upload a picture of a tie, for example. And it'll find similar ties. Or we could type in the text, blue stripy tie. And it'll find blue stripy ties. So it's using the same embeddings, and that works well because Clip can encode text, images, and audio into a shared vector space, a shared embedding space. So it all becomes relatively easy. Behind the scenes, Clip sees the text, blue stripy tie, in the image of a blue stripy tie is basically the same thing. Let's get back into the deck. Actually, we can look at some of the code behind it. This is a simpler version. And Zoom is not letting me click things very easily, because of course it isn't. So right here, we've got a notebook for building a very simple fashion search engine. This is using Roushanak 50. This is all of the code. So there's a bit of boilerplate that lets you run it nicely in a notebook, but all in all, it's well under 100 lines. So yeah, we can blast through it. Quick, actually, do we have time? Maybe we don't have time, but we'll share the notebook. If we have time, we'll go over it at the end.
I think it's fine. I mean, if people stay, we still have time, you know. Don't mind staying a bit longer.
Okay, cool.
Because the same way.
So, right. We will start at the top. Oh, run anyway. Who wouldn't trust me? It always takes a while for Colab to boot up. Actually, I'll share the link in the chat, or if Joe is there, she can. Yeah, the actual link on examples.jina.ai is currently busted because we just released version 3 a little while ago, and I'm busy migrating everything over. It works locally for me, but Docker Compose is not playing nicely on AWS right now. So we'll set some basic variables. You know, where are we putting the data? What's the file type we want? We'll only work with 1,000 images this time. The name of the query image, because you know, if we want to find a blue tie, we need a picture of a blue tie. Let's put plot embeddings to true because that's quite funky. And the toy data URL. So just declaring some variables, we'll install Dockerarray. As I said, Dockerarray is the primitive data type for any kind of unstructured data. And you can build a very simple, well, not a very simple, you can easily build a search engine locally with this in, like I said, about half an hour. Okay, yep, that's all installed. We have a couple of important things. Document, which is where you store that unstructured data, and a document array is just a collection of pieces of unstructured data. And this data could be text, images, audio, video. We have a protein search engine that actually, if anyone has contacts with like molecular scientists who can test this for us, that'd be useful. We can share links. So first up, we'll download the, well, not first up, but we'll download the images. Normally, I would be storing these locally, but you know, Colab doesn't store any state at all, so that's why there's so much boilerplate. And let's load them into a document array. And document array has a load of really nice helper functions, so we don't have to loop through every single file. We can just say from files, or from CSV, or from JSON, assuming your JSON file isn't in some weird format. Yeah, so we've loaded those 845 documents. I said max docs 1,000, but I think I only put 845 in the zip file. Yeah, we can have a quick look at those. We can see that, you know, they all look like fashion-y things if we squint. This is actually from the fashion product images data set on Kaggle, the same that we're using in the finished search engine I just showed you. It's really nice, lots of really good metadata. So you can really throw in a load of filters. We'll apply some pre-processing because, you know, if we're feeding things into a model, it wants everything in a consistent format. And because we're using torch vision, we're going to set the tensor channel axis and all that stuff. So first of all, load the URI to a tensor, set the shape, normalize, flip the axis, and then we can just apply them in bulk with the apply method. We don't have to run a for loop. We can just do it all concurrently, really fast. So for 845 images, boom, done. Let's install Torch Vision so we can actually create some embeddings. And next time I'm just going to run this as a local Jupyter notebook so we can skip all the boring installation bit. Still installing, I see. I really need to get some background music going. Is anyone good at humming?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Now, come on, people, we're data scientists. Surely we can put on a show. Oh, this is taking even longer than usual. Oh, yeah, you're probably fine. Errors are all in a day's work, right? Okay, just checking for the GPU. I don't think I enabled it, but it doesn't matter because this is really fast. So we're going to import Torch Vision. We're going to load up ResNet 50, the pre-trained version. And like I said, ResNet 50 is just good for classification. So if you uploaded a picture of an X-ray of someone with lung cancer, it would, assuming the model is trained in that regard, it would just say lung cancer or bronchitis, or I'm not a lung person. I don't know. Hmm? But yeah, in this case, we're going to remove the top layer. So if we were uploading pictures of people with problem lungs, it would find similar pictures of problem lungs. And you could maybe tie that back to the person and get a diagnosis for, I don't know, outlier cases. That's off the top of my head. Cases that don't fit the standard classification. Right, so yeah, we've loaded that up. We've stripped away the classification layer. So now we're just working on raw features. And we'll embed all the docs. And again, it does it concurrently. We're not running any for loops here. This is the bit that can take a while because any machine learning thing does. Okay, yes. So it looks like everything's embedded, everything's got tensors, everything's got embeddings, which is the most important bit. And we've got a cool thing. Out of the box, you can plot the embeddings. So, Colab, don't fail me now. Right, we can actually open this in its own window because it looks much cooler that way. EDOS in Google, it's very slow today. Okay, that'll do. So yeah, we can see the graph of where everything lies, but after we fed it through the model. So you can see we've got t-shirts and upperwear garments together. We've got shoes over there. We've got bags and stuff over here. Obviously, the model is working with a lot more dimensions than this, but you know, this is a computer screen. We can only do so much. We'll have to stop the runtime because this blocks everything. Well, interrupt. So it looks cool, but it's not practical. I mean, it's useful for checking the model is roughly on the mark, but not practical in a notebook. Okay, now we can run a query against that data. So we'll download a separate query image. And the query image is this, a guy in a white top. Once again, we'll create a document array. We'll apply the pre-processing. I actually found a better way, but in this notebook, we'll do it this way. And once again, we'll create an embedding. So essentially everything we did on the bigger data set, we're going to do on the query image as well. So everything on both sides is in the same format. And now we'll just run a match. So we've got query docs, we want to match it with whatever is in docs, and we'll limit it to the top 9 because it displays nicely with matplotlib in a notebook. And that was pretty quick. And yeah, those are the matches. So dudes in tops and one lady in a top. So out of all the images, it could have, if this were random chance, it could have been bags or shoes or jewelry or whatnot. But no, it got pretty decent results, I would say. Not perfect, but we can come to that a bit later. Yeah. We don't want to plot the embeddings again because that takes a while on this janky connection. But if we wanted to improve the model, we could do that using Jina fine-tuner. So I'm building a notebook now to do this. So yeah, it'll let you fine-tune any torch, keras, or paddle model right now. It integrates with Dockarray. So if you create a Dockarray in your local example search engine, you can pass it right into fine-tuner. And yeah, I've been playing around with it. It works really nicely. If you want to scale it up, I would use the Jina neural search framework. Come on. And yeah, this lets you build pipeline. It lets you run, how do I put this? I haven't explained some of the key concepts of Jina yet, but I'll just go over some of the key concepts and that'll help me explain it a bit better. So in Jina, so we spoke about Dockarray just now, which is the simpler thing if you want to build a search engine locally. If you want to scale it up, you have, again, the same kind of document that we were just working with. And then you have an executor. In the example just now, we did a lot of stuff manually and just very step by step. So an executor takes a lot of these steps and wraps them into one unit. And one unit typically does one simple thing: segmenting, indexing, encoding, and so on. And the good thing about executors is you can have replicas, you can have shards. So if you're doing some computationally intensive thing like encoding, you can say, well, for the first step, you know, just doing some basic image processing, that's quick. We'll just have one executor to do that. But for encoding, we'll have an executor for encoding plus a couple of replicas. So things can run in parallel and be over much faster. And all of these executors are connected together into a flow. So this multimodal real-world fashion search is built using Jina flows and Jina executors. And you don't even have to write a lot of these executors yourself. You can just use pre-existing executors from Jina Hub. So we've got a whole bunch of models on here. So you don't have to manually integrate clip image encoder, clip text encoder, image encoder, transformers. You can get all of that done in just one line of code. So you just create a flow with this. uses Jina Hub plus Docker transformer torch encoder. And you can just pass it through, pass a document through, it'll create the embedding. And you can chain these things together, break text down into sentences, process images, break videos down into different frames. Yeah, you can do all sorts of arbitrary things. And of course, you can create your own executors too, in case you can't find what you want on the app store that is Jina Hub. Yeah, we're working on more notebooks to show you how to actually scale this up into real world production and fine tune it. But yeah, just coming back to this, I think of Jina core. So Jina, as I said, we have flows. I think of it a lot like writing in Bash. So in Bash, you would pass a document through a cutter to cut it into sentences, an encoder to generate embeddings, and an indexer to generate a way to look up embeddings based on a new input document. And it's the same in Jina Flow. You just add, and then you open it with a context manager. And with Jina Hub, it's kind of like Bash plus apt-get. So instead of having to, so you can just get a whole new cool command very, very easily and integrate it without you having to worry about any implementation details. So in short, with Jina, you can build a neural search engine locally, a few lines of code. If we go to the fashion search example, we can share the repo link. So if we go to migrate 3, and the tool I use to build up the embeddings for this, we've got some boilerplate in helper and config, but yeah, it's very straightforward. I didn't write any machine learning code. I didn't try to integrate any models myself. I just created a flow with clip image encoder, PQ-Lite indexer that lets us filter based on different things like price range or season of the clothing. And then I spun it up. And we can we can give it a RESTful interface. We can do all kinds of things with this. So yeah, it's all pretty straightforward. You can fine tune the model for the last mile deployment. You don't need much muscle to do that because we're only working on like the last layer of the model. You can scale up the deployment on cloud, Kubernetes. We've got existing building blocks. And yeah, if there's a model for your kind of unstructured data, then you can very easily and quickly build a search engine for that data. If you want to learn more, or if you want to get started building something, you can go to learn.jina.ai. Our docs are at docs. We hold a couple of events every month. You're more than welcome to come along. We always love to see new community members there. Our engineering all hands, which is quite technical and more of a presentation, and office hours where you can have a drink with us, share your projects, ask questions, and you can find us in all the usual places. So yeah, that's the talk. And we did run a bit over time, but.
No problem. Thank you. Any questions before we say good night?
I have just one. That was great, Alex. That's really, really exciting, like the easiness of that and the effectiveness. But do you like integrate with like cloud? If my data or my some of the functionalities that I want to, if I have like AWS Lambda functions that I want to integrate in your pipeline, and my data are stored on an S3 bucket on AWS or a GCP bucket, Google Cloud, like, do you have that kind of integration?
That's a good question. Right now, I think we can very easily read from various databases. We support some we're supporting more and more vector databases as well. I would say for things like S3 and other things, it's probably best to ask on Slack. Some of the engineers will have a better idea about that than I do.
Thank you.
No
There
problem.
are some questions in the chat.
Okay.
See the last 5 to 6 messages.
Can I integrate different data sets? Yeah, you sure can. It's pretty straightforward because we have all these helper functions. Like, from CSV or from JSON or from files. And a lot of the data sets you can download straight from Kaggle that are open source. You can pretty much feed in quite easily. For the fashion search, how did I do that? I know I built a meme search engine, and the JSON for that was in a really strange format, so I had to do some pre-processing, but that's the case with any data set, I think. How can we further connect on the Slack channel? Go to slack.jina.ai. Say hi on introductions, tell them Alex sent you. Yes, other questions. Would we be open? Oh, that. Cool. Oh, thanks. Gonzalo? I hope I'm saying your name right. So, yeah, I think those are most of the questions so far. Would Jina be useful for health diagnostics? I was just thinking about that. And we're actually building an example now with a data set that is the lung cancer data set. I don't know much about the data set. It's lung problems. So as I said before, if you're just using a classifier, you could give it a picture of a lung problem and it'd tell you lung cancer or bronchitis or, you know, this is the problem. So you can go and look up the treatment. But there are always going to be outlier cases. So if Bob had lung cancer, but it didn't look like lung cancer and the model doesn't have knowledge of that, it's such an outlier, but the doctor caught it anyway, you know, and then maybe Alice has exactly the same symptoms and the model wouldn't pick it up as lung cancer, but the model would pick it up. If you're doing similarity search, it would match Alice with Bob. And you can have a look. You could say, oh, Bob, it didn't look like lung cancer, but it had these symptoms. It was lung cancer. Alice has these symptoms, you know, based on the scan. So Alice's symptoms are very similar to Bob's. Maybe it could be lung cancer. That's off the top of my head. I'm not a doctor. Yes, certainly. Join us on Slack. We are, like, the medical field is a really interesting one for us. As like, when it comes to structured data, like tables of statistics, all of that and numbers, that's, I mean, pure machine learning or statistics are really good for that. But in terms of unstructured data, like photos of people's lungs, x-rays, then, or let's say a doctor's notes on someone's condition, because every doctor writes different notes and has a different style, then that's where deep learning and Jina can really shine, because it's finding those similarities in the unstructured data. Cool. Yeah, it'd be great to see you all on the Slack.
Perfect. So thanks, everyone. I think this is all for tonight. A big round of applause for our speakers. Clapping emoji. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Alex. Thanks, Ahmed. Thanks, Roushanak. To learn about future events, make sure to go to these web addresses, the Data Academy, as well as the datascientist.com. And we'll be posting these within the next 2 days on those websites, and also sharing the recording with all of you. Also make sure to join us on meetups. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.